16 and Away from Home by Arleta Richardson. Chapter 14. The Most Important Event. March 28, 1890. There are a lot of spring activities going on now. The most important will be the annual speech contest sponsored by the Aradelphians. I can hardly wait to try out for it. I'm sure I can qualify. English class was over, and I walked from the room in a daze.
Mabel,
I heard Sarah Jane call.
where are you going?
My next class, I replied.
You won't get there going that way,
she said.
Come on.
She took my arm and turned me around in the hallway.
She's trying to drive me crazy, isn't she?
I asked Molly.
She wants me to lose my mind. Is that why she did that?
Certainly not, Molly replied. Clarice never does anything that doesn't lead eventually to her advantage. I think she told you the truth. I thought over the previous hour's events, beginning with Miss Baker's announcement. Class, our assignment today will be a continuing one. On the 25th of next month, the spring program is scheduled. It will consist of speeches, declamations, readings, and dialogues. We will begin by preparing dialogues. You will each have a partner to work with, and the team with the best presentation will represent the class in the program. Next week, we'll all work on readings and choose the best. Are there any questions? Clarice raised her hand. Miss Baker, I'd like to volunteer to work with Mabel on the dialogue. All eyes turned in her direction, and my mouth dropped open in amazement. She smiled sweetly at me. That will be fine, Clarice, Miss Baker answered. Now, how about the rest of you?
How come?
I demanded of Clarice when we met with our partners.
You can't stand the sight of me. That's true,
Clarice agreed.
But I think you have a chance at winning first place. I like to be on a winning team. If she thinks I'm going to get a good grade for both of us, I have news for her,
I told Sarah Jane.
She's going to have to do her share of the work. Clarice is a good student,
Sarah Jane admitted grudgingly.
She's also a good speaker. You've heard her.
So what did she need me for? I was sure she had some plot for my downfall, but what could it be? A dialogue required the cooperation of two people, and that was the last thing I had come to expect from Clarice. After school, we chose our material from books offered by Miss Baker. A dialogue from Alice in Wonderland would be fun, she suggested. Look at the one with the mock turtle. Clarice and I read a bit of it together. Mock Turtle.
When we were little, we went to school in the sea. The master was an old turtle. We used to call him Tortoise.
Alice.
Why did you call him Tortoise if he wasn't one?
Mock Turtle.
We called him Tortoise because he taught us. Really, you are very dull. We had the best of education. In fact, we went to school every day.
Alice.
I've been to a day school too. You needn't be so proud as all of that.
Mock Turtle.
With extras?
Alice.
Yes, we learned French and music.
Mock Turtle.
And washing?
Alice.
Certainly not.
Mock Turtle.
Ah, then yours wasn't a really good school. Now at ours, they had at the end of the bill French music and washing. Extra.
Oh, I like this,
Clarice exclaimed.
We can even end it by singing a verse of Beautiful Soup. Would you rather be Mock Turtle or Alice? Why don't we learn both parts and then decide?
I suggested. Clarice agreed, and I took a copy home to begin learning it.
Mabel, are you memorizing that?
Sarah Jane's voice broke in on my thoughts.
What? Oh, yes, of course. What do you think I'm doing?
You're still wondering what Clarice is up to. I can tell by the glazed look in your eye.
Well, wouldn't you be?
I asked.
When has she ever directed anything good or helpful or kind toward me? What would you be thinking?
It is most unusual, but you'll still have to do your best on your part.
I intend to,
I retorted.
I intend to do better than my best, but I'm not going to stop watching for whatever she has in mind.
We practiced each afternoon when classes were over. As the days went by, I had to admit that Clarice was doing an excellent job.
I was even forced to acknowledge that she was a better speaker than I was.
She hasn't even made any disparaging remarks, I said to the girls. I know I'm awful to be so suspicious, but I just can't help it. What could have brought this on?
Clarice likes to be a winner, Molly said, and she's smart enough to know if you can't beat 'em, you join 'em. I suppose so, I sighed.
It's just that I don't trust her as far as I can see her. Goodness knows I haven't had much reason to.
On Friday, Mr. Kingman came to the English class to help judge the dialogues. The other members of the class were also given a vote. Clarice and I won unanimously, and her eyes sparkled as we sat down.
We'll be in the spring program, she said. It will be a real honor. I suppose I should thank you for that. Don't bother, I replied. Neither one of us could have done it alone. I guess this proves you can work together toward a common goal no matter what you think of another person, I said to Sarah Jane later. If this keeps up, I may be forced to revise my opinion of Clarice Owens.
Don't be too hasty, she advised me. She's not doing it just to make you look good. She's right about it being an honor. The whole town turns out for this program.
While the class went on to choose the speakers in the other divisions, we were excused to polish our part. We worked hard and were satisfied with our efforts.
If this could have happened at the beginning of the year, I might actually have liked Clarice, I confided to Letty. She can be really decent when she wants to be.
Everyone has a good side if you can find it, Letty said. Sometimes they don't even know it themselves. I don't think being on the program, even if your dialogue is the best part of it, is going to make up for her losing Russ, Sarah Jane said. I can't see her letting that matter go without a struggle.
She has as much chance as I have, I shrugged. He's free to choose whichever one he wants.
I thought you liked Russ.
I do, I replied. I like him a lot, but I don't have any claim on him. I guess I would be disappointed if he decided to go with someone else, though.
I don't think there's much of a chance, Sarah Jane laughed. He hasn't seen anyone but you since the first program of the year.
Having to spend a lot of time with Clarice, I found out that she was more clever and witty than I had imagined. In fact, when she wasn't sniping at me, I actually enjoyed talking with her.
This spring program is the biggest event of the year in town, she told me one afternoon. I've never been in one before. It draws as big as a crowd as the Chautauqua. I hope we don't get nervous and forget everything we learned, I said. That could be embarrassing.
Clarice shook her head.
We won't do that. We've gone over it so often we could say it in our sleep. Anyway, aren't you the one who has the Lord on your side? That's not a guarantee that everything I do is going to win a blue ribbon, I told her. The Lord expects me to do the hard work.
As the day approached for the program, it became harder for me to concentrate on my studies. I wasn't worried about our dialogue, but the excitement of the big event seemed to carry over into the rest of our days.
I'll be glad when you get back to normal, Molly said. I couldn't believe that Latin translation you did this morning. It was a simple mistake, I said defensively. Could I help it if I turned 2 pages at once?
Couldn't you tell from what the person ahead of you read that you were in the wrong place?
Sarah Jane wanted to know.
I didn't even hear what he read, I admitted. I was thinking about something else.
I guess so. I hope you come back safely to Earth when this program is over.
Friday the 25th finally arrived. We had shortened classes so that most of the afternoon would be free, but I could see that the day couldn't possibly go fast enough for me.
Whatever you're planning to wear tonight is going to fall off of you if you don't eat more than you have this past week, Letty scolded at breakfast time. Why is it that every time you get upset or excited, you take it out on your food?
I don't know, I replied. It's just that my stomach gets jumpy. I'll try to eat.
Everyone was milling about the room and talking when we arrived in our first class. Miss Baker was understanding. Let's sit down, class, and compose ourselves. I know this is a big day, but it won't go any faster by being disorganized. We'll use this period for free reading or study. Do what you like, but do it quietly. It was several moments later that I noticed that the seat behind me was empty.
"Where's Clarice?"
I whispered to Molly.
"Did she decide school would be too much to stand today?"
"Oh dear," Molly replied. "She's sick. I didn't want to be the one to tell you."
"Sick? You mean sick in bed sick?"
Molly nodded. "Papa had to go see her last night. Mrs. Owens thought it might be nerves, but Papa says she has a fever."
"She'll be well by evening, won't she?"
I asked.
"She won't have to miss the program."
"I don't know," Molly replied. "I hope she'll be all right." Gradually, the truth began to sink in. Without Clarice, our part of the program would have to be canceled. I was not going to appear in the biggest event of the year. "Maybe something can be done," Sarah Jane suggested as we talked it over after class. "Miss Baker will think of something."
"Like what?"
I said bitterly.
"This is a dialogue, Sarah Jane. I can't get up there and talk to myself."
"Isn't there someone else who knows Clarice's part or could learn it by tonight?" Molly wondered. "No, I guess not," she added, seeing the look on my face.
"She's done this on purpose,"
I stormed.
"I knew I shouldn't be getting so complacent about that girl. She's tried every way she can think of to make me look bad, but this time she's gone too far."
"Be sensible, Mabel," Sarah Jane said. "This was just as important to Clarice as it was to you. I don't think she'd deliberately ruin your chances."
"Whose side are you on anyway?"
I interrupted her.
"I never thought I'd hear you stand up for Clarice against me."
I stomped angrily off toward biology class, leaving a stricken-looking Sarah Jane to walk by herself. By the time school was dismissed at noon, I had decided that I would confront Clarice. I had been patient with her long enough. I hurried angrily towards the Owens' house, and every step I took reminded me of something Clarice had done or said to make me look bad. The list was long and included injuries suffered from the first day of school right up to the present. I intended to tell her everything I had been thinking all year long. Suddenly, a thought occurred to me, and I slowed my steps. Hadn't I told the Lord that I would forgive Clarice and return good for evil? What kind of Christian was I if I could tolerate her only when she was friendly and behaved the way I wanted her to? I was ashamed of my anger and turned around to start back home.
"No,"
I decided.
"I'll go and see her and tell her I'm sorry she has to miss the program. At least I'll be there to enjoy it, even if I can't take part."
Mrs. Owens met me at the door.
"Oh, it's you,"
she said.
"I didn't expect to see you around here." "I'd like to see Clarice, Mrs. Owens,"
I replied.
"Will it be all right?" "I suppose so. Just don't get her upset."
Clarice heard me come in, but she didn't turn to look at me.
"I know why you're here," she said. "You came to yell at me for ruining our chances for first place. You think I did it on purpose." "No,"
I replied.
"I'll admit I was ready to yell when I saw you weren't in school this morning, but now I'm here to tell you I'm sorry you're sick. I know you were as anxious about this program as I was. I'm really sorry."
She turned her head to face me.
"Mabel, I've treated you like dirt all year long because I was jealous of you. I thought if I could make you mad enough to do something terrible, your friends wouldn't like you so much. But you always surprise me by forgiving me or acting as though it didn't happen. How come you've never been mean to me?"
"I've been taught that it's better to love than to hate," I replied. "It isn't always easier, but I've discovered that hating makes me feel worse. I'd rather be your friend than your enemy, Clarice." Her eyes filled with tears and she brushed them away impatiently.
"All right," she said. "You win. You can't go on disliking someone who refuses to be disliked. And I really feel terrible about tonight."
"I know," I said, "but we'll have another chance next year. I'll come by tomorrow and tell you all about the program, shall I?" She nodded, and I left to find Sarah Jane and Molly. My heart felt lighter than it had for many months, and I had to share the news with my friends. End of chapter 14.